All right, you guys. So basically, the hardest part of my job is the part of my job that I used to kind of hide from the public. Sorry, I have like terrible heartburn. Anytime that I get like my blood pressure up or I get kind of upset, I basically get heartburn. So it's like my body's way of dealing with stress. It's like instant heartburn. Okay, so basically, the hardest part of my job that I used to basically hide from the public is the evaluation process, to where we try to decide which horses stay and go. That's not something I have ever shown the public. It's not something that I ever involve you guys in. And this is something that I need to talk about. I need to fucking talk about it. So y'all are going to listen. So if you don't want to listen, don't click on this video. If you're just here for horse content and you're not here for listening to me blab my mouth, then this is not the video for you. So there is a star party though. So there you go. Basically, the hardest part of my job at the end of the day is just the evaluation process. It is trying to determine what horses come here that are viable horses that can add value to people, not hurt someone. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter how good of a job we do, horses are still dangerous and horses can still get hurt. Like, I can sell a perfectly fine horse and 2 days later it cuts its knee. Like, that's just part of it. So what I was hoping is that we could have an honest to God discussion just about why the rescue effort is needed. And I'm basically have been trying to get people to talk me off the ledge of starting a rescue so that my dumbass doesn't add more to my plate. But with that being said, Jacob seems to think that I can still do all of the same rescue efforts without being a 501c3. But I told him today, I was like, you know what? We pay taxes on all the money that people give, and then I turn around and put it into the horses. And yes, we have write-offs. But if I started a 501c3, I could help horses like Dunny not only give people a tax write-off, but then the money that I receive to help that horse would not be taxed on my end. So that's a whole other can of worms that I really haven't opened yet, is just how expensive things are. But please send stars. We have 3 minutes and 19 seconds left on our star party, and we are halfway there, just a little over halfway there. So I have not worn makeup today. I have been just trying to battle getting sick. I'm refusing to get sick, you guys. I am not doing it. I had flu B. Everybody on my property has COVID. Just in case you didn't know, the vet and his family didn't come because COVID just went through their family, and that's why they're over it, but they just had it, so they can't get sick. But then everybody here has COVID. So in case you are planning on picking up, or you're a hauler or anything else, please be aware that everybody at this property has COVID. So we just need to be honest about it. I'm clearly trying my best not to get sick again, and that's a whole other thing. But so there is a big difference between there is a difference between rescue and rehab. I would say that rehabilitation is when you own a horse and you've owned it for a long time and it gets hurt, and you need to rehabilitate the horse that you already own. Rescue and rehabilitation is when it's not a horse that you've owned and it's a horse that somebody else dumped off and has now made the horse somebody else's problem. To me, this is just my choice, is just saving animals and taking in animals and doing the best by animals that have not been yours long term. They are new to you. They are not something that were your responsibility, and you are willing to make that animal become your responsibility and change its life when you're not the one that put it in the position that it's in. That's just same for humans. I feel like lots of humans rescue other humans by helping them to heal emotionally, helping them to heal from problems they didn't create. So anyway, that's just my definition, and if you like that definition, great, and if you don't, that's okay too. But we just had a lot of talk over Christmas break about how just moving into 2020, we're just going to be really transparent about everything. Like, the one thing that I've really saved you guys in the past from is having to see the evaluation process, having to see the horses that I would say if this had been a year ago, I would have never shown y'all Dunny, and I would have told Jacob, like, oh, this horse just needs to be to slaughter. Because one, I would have never believed that I would have the ability to fundraise $2,000 that fast to be able to help him, because we don't have a lot of time. I mean, we're basically out of time. So two, one, on top of being able to collectively probably pitch in $20 a piece and actually try to rehabilitate him, I have the facility now to do it also. A year ago, we were just now closing on this place to move here. I didn't have the size of the following that I have now, and I certainly didn't have Facebook monetization to be able to afford to keep a horse long term. I wouldn't have been able to do that. So a year later, the evaluation process has changed a little bit, because I can't sell that horse to anybody in the condition that he's currently in, because he did buck someone off. He hurt them. So knowing that that horse has bucked someone off and that he's hurt them, and the reason that he bucked him off is because his stifle hung up, and that is not abnormal at all. I had a horse, that when his stifle would hang, he would buck. So that's not an abnormal response for a horse to be bronchi over a stifle injury. That's actually fairly common. So that's just so you guys know, like, he's not a bad horse. That's not an abnormal response. That's kind of like, I mean, for lack of better words, it's kind of a normal, common response for a horse to become bronchi with a stifle like that. So, I don't believe in the last act of kindness. Like, that's not a thing to me. Like, because the last act of kindness is like, oh, we will euthanize and bury it. Yeah, no, it's just not how things happen here. Like, when a horse comes here and they can make it to Mexico without the chance of getting down on the truck or whatever like that, like, slaughter to me is not inhumane. People go, oh my God, it is so inhumane. They're scared. They're this. I'm like, well, horses are scared just being bathed. So, horses are currently scared of our little trail course out here. It blew a lot of their mind today when they walked up here and there was a trail course. So, if a horse is not viable from here, we ship them to slaughter. So, yes. So Dr. Hanlon and I had a really long talk. So this is where things like this get kind of a gray area. So in this scheme of things, like, if you're talking about a $1,500 trail horse, no, you probably don't want to invest thousands of dollars. And then I told Dr. Hanlon, this isn't a $1,500 trail horse. This is a horse that was potentially worth $10,000 or $15,000 as a barrel horse. And they've allowed the stifle over years to get this bad without doing the proper therapies. But so many people don't realize there are now restorative therapies, meaning it can reverse the damage that's been done. So we no longer just have to inject. And then Dr. Hanlon said, like, it's the cost, it's the cost associated with these restorative therapies. But when do we stop using words like euthanasia, slaughter, pasture ornament, when horses deserve restorative therapy so that they are never lame again? Hold on. Hello, this is Tara. I'm fine. No, my debit card expired. I haven't gone back in and fixed all that. No, it's good. I'm actually live on Facebook. You can say hi to 300 people. Down Under Horsemanship said hello. Yeah, it's no worries. No, it's actually, my debit card expired and I just need to go into I've got several, like, subscriptions that I need to update. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Down Under Horsemanship called to let me know that my account had gone inactive. And I'm like, that's actually true. That is accurate. Like, my debit card expired, and there's like my Ipsy Glam bag also sent me an email that it had gone inactive, and my rock box. And I'm like, ugh, that, don't you guys hate, like, we all have debit cards that last years, and then like the month before, it's like, damn, now you're trying to think of like everything that this card direct deposits. You know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause you have to go in and update all of that. Anyway, so those of you who didn't know, I've said in the past that I think it's great for my following to follow some kind of a clinician, just so that you can just always have tools in your toolbox to be able to bond with your horse. And I like Clinton Anderson. Not everybody loves him, but I do. Okay, so yes, so Cindy Becker said IRAP was life-changing and it saved her horse. So there are days like today where I'm a little bit emotionally spent for the day. I have a lot to process. So I feel like maybe it's not the time to have this conversation also, because let me explain this. Lord have mercy. I love it. Okay, so let's start basically with saying, like, by the end of today, like, we've had a lot of vet work, we've had a lot of discussion, and I'm kind of emotionally spent, but we need to start changing the narrative that horses need to be euthanized, horses need to be retired, horses need to be pasture pets. Like, one thing that I want to change the narrative is that a performance horse does not have to be retired because they require maintenance. A horse does not have to be sent to slaughter because it needs restorative therapy. Like, that to me is mind-blowing. To see how many people have said things like, he's dog food. Yep, let's not even try. And that's what I try to explain to people is, we have two options. This horse does not need to live the rest of his life in somebody's pasture with arthritis. It's going to continually degenerate and get worse. And eventually he is going to be suffering if you just let him be a pasture pet. That's the wrong answer. You're better off sending the horse to slaughter and ending its life than letting it long-term stand in a pasture until the arthritis completely eats away and the stifle is bone on bone and it's horrible. So what you have to do in these cases is you have to do restorative therapy. This is something that Scott, he said a lot of people don't do it. A lot of people are not stepping out and doing restorative therapy. And so he can, and we can try, but the horse is currently in pain. Susan, he was limping in his video. He limps. Anything that limps is in pain. Now, is he in pain just standing in the stall eating? No, probably not. Could you give him Previcox for the rest of his life and he'd be pasture sound until his late teens? Absolutely. With that being said, let's rewind and remember that there are restorative therapies. There are restorative therapies. And I don't understand how come that's not clear through people's mind. Like, there are restorative therapies that can restore the integrity of the stifle. Say it with me. Restorative therapies. Restorative therapies. And I think that that's what people forget. There are restorative therapies available to restore the integrity of the stifle. Right now, the horse is dog food. But you know what, Susan? It shouldn't matter how old the horse is. If the horse is capable of having a long life with restorative therapies, it doesn't matter if he's 5 or 25. It is our obligation to the animals to provide restorative therapy. And we live in a society to where people are like, it's 18 years old, lived a long life. No, horses are living to 28 now. That horse is 12 coming 13, just for the record. So I think that there are several things that I want to tell people. If you have a pasture ornament and it is crippled and it can barely get around, that is no quality of life. And if that's what you choose to have in your backyard, that's between you and that animal. And if you just are so selfish that you want to look out there and see that horse alive for your own soul and sake, like, by God, you do it. But just remember that every step those horses take is painful. At night, laying down, getting up, it's painful. If you've ever lived in pain, you understand. Now let's fast forward. If that's the horse's case, and I understand people say all the time, well, it's a pasture pet. If your pasture pet is in that much pain and you're not giving it Previcox and you're not doing everything you can just to improve their day-to-day quality of life, that's a monster. And people are like, no, it's livestock. And I'm like, then no, no, because I don't think any livestock should be living a life suffering, period. Like, I am against long-term suffering. I am against having a horse that is a pasture pet that is so crippled that you're keeping it alive for your own sake, but you're doing nothing day to day to help that horse be comfortable. Can you imagine somebody keeping you alive for the sake of keeping you alive, and you're suffering every day, and there are things available out there to help your quality of life, and just not providing that for you because you're just a pasture pet. You're just a pasture pet. You're in someone's pasture. So why should you? Yes, Tracy, listen, restorative therapy means it restores the integrity of the injury, which means it heals. Restorative means healing. Restorative means healing. We're not talking about patching. We're not talking about Band-Aids. One thing that I don't like are Band-Aids. I don't like Band-Aids. I don't like to butanamine, mask, cover up. I don't like those things. It's why I talk to you guys about surgery. I talk to you guys about long-term fixes. When we were talking about Riker today, when we were talking about Giant Mesa, those horses, that the knee in Riker is one of those things that's on the fence. Okay? On the fence. Now, if you left the chip in the knee and you did not remove it because it has already calcified back down and it is not floating, we have a lot of options. We can inject the knee. We can keep him on therapies such as polyglycan, Equine. I mean, I'll just tell you that for my personal barrel horses, I keep bottles of Equine. This is what my personal barrel horses get. This is $400. And you'll ask me why. Let me tell you why. Equine. And it says on here, patient, barn, species, equine, uses directed by vet, Tara Sanders, December. Like, this is, but that right there is $800. I could have bought a Louis Vuitton. I could have put, diamond earrings in. Like, that $800 I spend on a regular basis for my barrel horses because this is how I feel. If you were going to ask a horse to do something, somebody just hit my car. They're still hitting my car. Hey! Get the fuck back! Get in the car. No! I swear to God. Elizabeth, they just drug Bear underneath my car and tore him up. He is bleeding. Yes. It was the gray one. Are you okay? Hi. Come here. What happened? Are you okay? Come here. Him's is sad. Are you okay? You big puss? He's twice their size and they were dragging him. Oh. You okay? Well, look at me. He's so sad. He is so sad. Hey, you okay? Oh, he's bleeding. You're okay? No? Well, look at me. He's embarrassed. He's a big guy. Did you just let two girls beat you up? He did. He just let girls beat the shit out of him. I was like, what hit my car? So my car, unfortunately, is soundproof. So, like, there was a dog fight going on under my car, and I couldn't hear it because my car is soundproof. Are you okay? Bear. Oh, he just looked at me. He was like, Mom, come here, buddy. Come here. It's okay. Come here. Come here. It's okay. Come here. Come here. It's okay. Hold on, you guys. Bear's just needing a little bit of love. You okay, you big puss? Mm-hmm. Oh. Him just shaking, so just give him. And sadly, she's not normally super aggressive, but she was just then. You okay? She keeps her in a cage, but it does, or in a kennel, but it doesn't matter if they escape from the kennel. Bear, come here. Are you okay? Just so you'll know, when I jumped out of my car, I was in the middle of the dog fight. I was like, fuck, this was a bad idea, because he had gone under my car and they were like trying to drag him back out. Luckily, they both ran off. But Bear, you okay? Okay. He said he's just gonna stay in here because that's just not. He won't fight back. That's a little bit of the problem, is that no matter how big Bear is, he won't fight back. So he's like a big puss. You okay? Okay. Him and Charlie, you would be surprised. You would think that Charlie would be bad because he's not neutered. And him and Charlie, like, but Elizabeth's, I was very surprised to see her, because normally the bulldog is like locked up in like she has like a run or whatever. She must have just got out. Just a little blood on his ear and on his face. My poor little puss. Bear weighs almost 80 pounds, and Bear's really not older. He'll be 5 in April. Like, I mean, I think both of those dogs are older than him. He's a puss. He's not a fighter. I knew when something hit my car, I was like, something hit my car. It was Bear trying to get in. He never jumps on my car. Like, he never jumps on my car. So I should have known something was bad when Bear jumped in. He said, let me in, Mom. Ugh, he's already asleep. He is a puss. I love you. You okay? Yeah. That's why I don't leave Bear out here and things like that. Just because I mean, he's just a puss. Like, he will literally just lay down and let you kill him. He's just not going to fight back. Tell him, I'm just not going to fight back. And he's the opposite of me, that's for sure. Because I would have whipped those bitches' asses. You're a big guy, man. He said no. He said no. He does need some fries. Is that not funny that my dog loves fries? Okay, so, you ready to go back to what I was talking about? Okay, Bear's asleep. Bear's like completely happy. He's in his seat with his seat heater on, and all is good in the world. He's asleep. He needs nothing. He needs for me to be quiet, I think, so he can continue to sleep. The biggest thing about horses is I see a lot of horses thrown away, and we have to start changing the mindset of throwing your horse away. So what I want to try to do is spend 2022 rehabilitating horses that have been thrown away due to career ending, to prove to people that you don't throw your horse away and get a new one because they have something wrong. You don't throw your horse away and get a new one Now, I will say in Dunny's case, please understand that the lady who had him had already taken him to multiple vets. They thought maybe kissing spine, hocks. The last vet she took him to thought it was his hip, but Dr. Hanlon immediately, it's why I use Dr. Hanlon. She had taken him to 2 or 3 different vets who had given her diagnosis, and navicular is not a death sentence. I think it is so important. I think it's so important for us to start changing the narrative that you throw your horse away and get a new one. That is what we see 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10, what we're seeing in the horse industry is their horse has something wrong, so they throw it away and get a new one. Like, my horse has a chip in its knee, so I just don't even want to put money into it. I'll just go get one without it. And then you might not end up with a chip in the knee, but you end up with kissing spine. You know, like, it's very disgusting, the mentality of people. The mentality of people is to just throw it away and get a new one. Just throw it in the pasture, get a new one. And then when you don't want to feed it in the pasture anymore, take it to the sale barn. So I don't mind the pasture pet. Like, if you had a horse and you loved it and it needs to be retired and you put it in your pasture, I hope, though, for the horse's sake, that you at least make sure that it has things that it needs day to day to be living a comfortable life. Like, I really get aggravated when I see pasture pets that are 3-legged lame, and I'm like, so do you give it Previcox? And they're like, oh no, it's a pasture pet. Do you float its teeth every year? No, it's a pasture pet. Why would I do any of that? And I think that people have the mindset, well, I'm just going to keep my horse alive out here in the pasture because it's just going to retire out there forever. It can drag its leg, but it's a pasture pet. So it's like they use this blanket Band-Aid label of, oh, it's a pasture pet. Those horses would maybe be better off euthanized or going to slaughter than standing in your pasture not being taken care of. And there are people that, I mean, we're in the livestock industry. There are people that will fight me to the death and be like, well, what did the wild horses do? Nobody fucking gives them Previcox, Tara. Nobody. And I'm like, yeah, and the fucking wolves attack them and kill them and put them out of their misery. That's what happens. Like, 32-year-old grandpa over here dragging a leg doesn't survive the winter because Mr. Gray Wolf ate him. And that's a whole other story. When people will be pro-wild horse and anti-slaughter, and I'm like, do you realize that the wild horses get attacked by wolves all the time and eaten? Like, you think slaughter is worse than being eaten alive? Like, we don't want to talk about that. Don't want to talk about that, right? Right? I mean, that's a different conversation, that slaughter is not worse than being eaten alive. Like, people will be pro wild horse, leave the wild horses alone, don't help the wild horses, let them be wild, and then be anti fucking slaughter. Nothing should go to slaughter, it's cruel and inhumane. And I'm like, you probably realize that your beautiful Picasso got so old that he got down and got ate by a wolf. No? Okay, well, I won't enlighten you then. I won't enlighten you on how the wild horses die. Just so we're all on the same page. I mean, nobody wants to think about that. Nobody wants to think about how wild horses get eaten alive regularly. Like, it's a normal thing in the wild. Like, where do you think the wolves, they're carnivores, which means they eat meat. Where do you think the wild wolves eat? Did you think the park rangers were giving them dog food? Okay. Well, I'm just going to sit back in my chair and let y'all ponder that slaughter might not be the worst thing. So. I think a lot of people forget, though, that those things happen. So now that we're on the dying in the wild versus dying at slaughter topic, let's get back on the regenerative restorative therapies. So there are different kinds of therapies available for horses that have issues. Paula bought a horse from us named Fortunato, and he came in and he had severe cellulitis. Now, while I rehabilitated and treated the cellulitis and we got him to where he was basically sound, he had been hurt when he came to me. For how long, we're not sure. He had a secondary problem happen, meaning the right leg had all of the cellulitis and he was getting off of it standing on the left leg, and he created a little bit of a gas bubble in the laminae of his left hoof, and left untreated could have led to laminitis or severe founder or rotation of the coffin bone. We just happened to have found it. Now people will say, oh, founder. Nope, he's not foundered yet. Oh, laminitis. Nope, there's a gas bubble in the laminae and that can heal. What you don't want is for that to rupture and to create rotation. Now, he was put in a set of shoes today that are going to help elevate the coffin bones and to help that to naturally heal. And we will actually do TheraPlate therapy daily on him, maybe twice a day on days we have time. And then you'll go, oh, but long term? Well, untreated, meaning somebody sees that and goes, well, fuck. He's got a gas bubble in his laminae. So the prognosis with that mindset is the gas bubble ruptures, the coffin bone rotates, he founders, and he lives a life of pain the rest of his life. But we caught it. We've got corrective shoes on him. So now what? It heals. The body has an uncanny ability to heal itself. You just have to be proactive. So Fortunato, because Paula is amazing and she stepped up and she is being proactive, and we caught the cellulitis and the right leg injury caused him to be overweight bearing on the left leg, and that heel was actually higher on one side than the other and created a gap just above the coffin bone, and there became just a little bit of a gas bubble in there. We are able to shoe him correctively and we're going to keep him on Previcox, or Equiox is what it's called for horses, and that is going to get the inflammation out of the laminae. It's going to allow the body to begin to heal. The TheraPlate will increase circulation to the feet and kind of help with inflammation also. We will probably every other day or every 3 days do PEMF therapy just on the feet to really kind of drive some of that gauss down into that soft tissue. And prognosis for him is fantastic. Prognosis for him long term is this will heal. And when something heals, it's no longer a problem, and he's going to go to her home and be a wonderful addition to their family. But that's because we are doing restorative therapies that are going to heal the body. Now, there are some things that people think can't heal. That's okay too. I understand that then becomes a pasture pet. But if you're going to make your horse live its life of retirement in your pasture, the least you need to do is to keep them on some kind of anti-inflammatory property type thing to relieve it is a great thing for retired horses. And I hear people say things like, I'm not putting any money into it, it's a pasture pet. Well, why would you trap it in the pasture to live suffering? Why would you lock it up in a pasture to live the rest of its life on 3 legs? Like, don't keep a pasture pet unless you're willing. I think a pasture pet is an older horse who served you well, and you have the finances to financially keep that horse comfortable. But if you were to ride it every day, you couldn't keep it comfortable. So you want to just not add anything to the distress, and you want to keep it comfortable, and that any kind of exercise or riding would be detrimental. So I have screws in my left ankle. I pulse it all the time. Thank you, Lynn. Lynn said, if you like my content, send stars. I agree. If you like Bear and you feel bad that he got beat up, send stars. Tell him, send stars, Bear. He is feeling so bad for himself. He's is feeling very violated. Bear, I'm sorry. I knew. I was like, something hit my vehicle. Hard. That's not normal. It was Bear knocking with his whole body. He was like, I opened the door and he had rammed himself underneath my car. He was under my door, and he was like, my mom is gonna get y'all. Bear got attacked by Elizabeth's pit bull and blue heeler. Bitches. Tell them, bitches tried to eat me. They normally stay in a kennel, like a runaround. Okay, so let me go back to the restorative therapies. So I see people that have horses with navicular and they dump them at the sale barn. Here's the thing about navicular syndrome. Navicular syndrome is a blanket diagnosis for general hoof pain. In some cases, when you x-ray the feet, you find that there are holes in the navicular bone. In some cases, you find that there are no holes in the navicular bone, but there might be a spur and it is creating pressure on the deep digital flexor tendon. So there's lots of different things that navicular syndrome covers. Now, what I can tell you, if there are holes in the navicular bone, you can inject the navicular bursa to get the inflammation out of the hoof capsule. Follow up with a couple of doses of osphos. It's a one bottle is 3 shots, and you can do that every 90 days for 3 to 4 bottles. And that will help the bone to actually repair and close, and you can reverse the signs of navicular. We have a horse here who x-rayed really bad, holes in the navicular bone. We did 3 bottles, which was $900 of osphos, and the last x-rays, the bones in the navicular bone have healed. So navicular can be reversed in some cases. In the past, people just thought navicular was a death sentence. So what I'm talking to you guys about today is restorative therapy. Things that heal the body. Things that help the body to rejuvenate itself back to its prime. Things that help, that actually help to create not only a better quality of life now, but a better quality of long-term life, meaning that we are going to reverse the signs of these issues so that in the long term, these horses are sounder, better, stronger horses 10 years from now, that they're still going strong. So I think it's important for us to understand that. And exactly what happened is what I thought. We did the x-rays on Dunny, and how many of you guys posted underneath his video, yeah, this is not fixable. Oh, well, he needs retired. Oh, listen, I would not sell him right now, not because of the stifle. I would not sell him right now because he's bucking. Okay. But he's bucking because the stifle locks. The stifle locks because there's maximum amounts of inflammation all around the joint, and the meniscus has a little bit of an old tear that has healed, and there's some cartilage issue there. So what do you do? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to order Renovo. It's going to be around $1,200, and we need to do Renovo. And then we need to follow up 60 days later by injecting both stifles with Winstraw, and probably, we could even do Depot and Legend. We could do Vetilog and Legend is a great combination. Vetilog and Legend in the stifles is really good. And we could also do a series of 7 shots of Adequine. The problem is that entire therapy is going to be about $2,400 total for all of that. But people would say, is it worth it? Well, the horse was a $15,000 barrel horse at one time. Now, why did he get dumped? Because that stifle, nobody took care of it. And then a lady got him that had him, and she did everything. She was taking him to vets. She was trying, but nobody could tell her what was wrong. They injected his, they x-rayed his back. They injected his hocks. They told her that they thought maybe he had like a whorlbone or hip problem. And the truth is they just missed the diagnosis of the stifle. And the truth is, if they would have diagnosed the stifle right off the bat, like Scott did, I mean, boom, he was like, Johnny on the spot, this is what it is. Popped an x-ray, that's what it is. Yeah, she could have saved all the money and then started restorative therapy. So what we have to decide now is, okay, he can't really be sold in the condition that he's in. So in order for him to be rehomable, he's going to have to be rehabbed first. So what I want to do in 2022 is get all of us collectively willing to pitch in. There's 330 of you watching, 335 of you. If everybody pitched in $10, how much money is that? $3,350. We could do a tremendous amount with that. So what I'm asking you guys is to please join the Wild Tribe After Hours and the Wild Tribe Daily. If you haven't joined those two groups, one is $19.99 a month, the other one is $9.99 a month. I'm asking nicely for you to join the groups. Please follow. The groups are full of wonderful women. They have great commentary in there. They post memes. It's really a group, kind of group chatty type thing. Very nice people. Very, 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 for lack of better words, they're very uplifting. And I would like to take some of the Wild Tribe After Hour money and the Wild Tribe Daily money and to be able to do restorative therapy on some of these horses. If you find that you can't subscribe, first of all, you have to make sure you like and follow both pages. You can't just follow, you have to like and follow the Tara Michelle Sanders fan page, and you also have to like and follow the JT Livestock Co. page. Once you like and follow both pages, at the top you will see a little tab that says subscribe. You can click that subscribe tab and it will walk you through the steps. Outside of joining the Wild Tribe After Hours and the Wild Tribe Daily, because there's two separate groups, we have Cash App. You can donate directly to the veterinarians. There's a million different ways to help. We have Cash App. The vet, like if you called my vet and you said, I want to donate $50 towards doing Renovo for Dunny, yes, you can absolutely Cash App me for the restorative therapy, because what I will do is go on and Dr. Hanlon will write a prescription for the Renovo for him. I will pay for it at cost, have it shipped here, and then Dr. Hanlon will just charge us to do the like the procedure of the injecting and everything, and we will do it live. Now, let me explain why this has really been heavy on my heart for a long time and why I'm begging you guys to help me financially to do these things. Obviously, we make money selling all the horses, but I want to educate the public, and I am afraid I'm afraid that a lot of people dump their horses that could have rehabilitated them if they just had the proper education. And I feel like if we pay the $2,000 and we rehabilitate this dun horse and people see the success that can come from restorative therapies, it will encourage other people to save up money and do restorative therapies on their horses versus dumping them. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping that we can eliminate a lot of good quality horses, and people will say, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? Because that's what's going to help the horses. That's not what's best for my pocket. I mean, I make a living off of selling horses that people have given up on. But if we can start to educate people and we can start to get people to keeping their horses long term, I think that's important. Like, the lady who had Dunny just didn't know. She didn't do this because she's a malicious person. She literally was just told by her vet, like, we've done everything. We've injected the hocks. They just missed the actual diagnosis of the stifle. And now, and I don't know if her vet has the ability to do Renovo. I don't know how much of a performance horse vet. I know they x-rayed his spine. For kissing spine, they thought maybe that's why he bucked. I mean, they didn't know. But at the end of the day, he flexed off pretty lame today. So I think that it is 56 degrees right now. Bear is snoring. Bear's snoring. My poor baby got attacked and now he's just passed out. He said he had an adrenaline crash. Yes. I do. That's what I want to document. I want to document not only his, we're going to send Giant Mesa for knee surgery to remove I say another, but like a different type of chip than what my brain just literally went. That's what Bear's doing. So, successful Riker has a different type of chip than Giant Mesa does. Giant Mesa's chip is also older, but it is not reattached, and unfortunately it does move. And so what I'm trying to say is I haven't even shown Giant Mesa to the public because I knew that there is no way on God's green earth that he could go into a home from here and not eventually be crippled if they don't know about it. He's not lame. It just so happened that the trainer who trained him on the track gave me a courtesy call and was like, y'all bought a horse. So we x-rayed the knee. The chip is there. So what we need to do is I've talked to several vets today. Dr. Hanlon was going to make a couple calls. We're going to see who can do him the cheapest. It's a very simple procedure that any equine surgeon can do because it's not a specialty. It's something that if you're an equine surgeon, you've done this a million times. So it's a very typical procedure. Now, with that being said, if we can find a veterinarian that's a surgery center that's willing to work with us, we may send Successful Riker and also just go ahead and have that chip removed. So if we could do both of those horses, at a discounted rate or something, pay cash, like here's cash money. Can you, we don't need to make payments, like here's cash. I think that maybe we can get both of them done. With that being said, Successful Riker's chip is not in a place that is going to affect him long term if it's not removed. Now, you say that, but if he got kicked in the knee and it got kicked right over where that chip is, or if he bumped it really wrong on a stall gate, could he knock that chip loose? Absolutely. That's what happened to Giant Mesa. Giant Mesa had a chip. It had calcified. It was probably reattached. He either took a bad step, got kicked by a horse, bumped it on the stall gate, something happened, and it broke the calcification loose, and now that chip has floated, and it's causing a little bit of damage, and he is either dog food or surgery. Like, without surgery, he needs to go to slaughter. And why I'm saying that is because the trauma of running around somebody's pasture or being ridden can make that chip to continually float, and as it continually floated, it would continue to do tissue damage and to really genuinely hurt that horse. So we need to clean that chip out of there and allow the body to heal. So he is not viable without surgery because the chip is floating. It has not touched the joint yet, but it's headed that direction. So for sure, without a doubt, Giant Mesa is 100% a surgery candidate, or he's dog food. Riker, on the other hand, does not require surgery to be viable. Now, in the future, could he, like Giant Mesa, something happen, knock the chip loose, and it begins to float? Absolutely. So what do we need to do? We need to take a step back and to consider going ahead and operating just for the long-term safety aspects of it and the long-term quality of his life, to make sure that later on in life something doesn't happen that's detrimental to his quality of life. So with that being said, both of those horses really need surgery, and they both need to be on a good joint therapy so that the joint and the cartilage can really heal post-surgery. Now, post-surgery, we will ice with the cryo machine. We will feed lots of Equibone. And Giant Mesa's been here, but I didn't show him to the public because he was one of the horses that I knew was not going to be viable. So I didn't really want to include the public in knowing that there was a horse here that we can't save. But a friend of mine who is a member of our tribe and is wanting to sit on the board and help me to run the Performance Horse Rescue Network, she actually is offering to pay for his surgery so that we can rehabilitate him. So he is going to have surgery due to somebody's kindness. Otherwise, it wasn't available. So Giant Mesa is going to have surgery. I've kind of showed him on the walker and been like, this is a racehorse. And I didn't lie. I just didn't want to involve people's emotions, because here's what happens. Then people start going, well, I'll buy him. And that's fine that you're kind and maybe you would give him a home, but without surgery, he would suffer, and he could take a bad step and get that that chip into the joint, and it would end his life. So it's the way that it was explained to me by a vet one time is, imagine having a bullet in your shoulder, and every day you move it and that bullet moves a little bit and it's tearing up the muscle. It's in a bad place. You do this, it catches. But a doctor can go in and remove that foreign object. He can remove that bullet. He can remove that piece of metal that's in that area, and your body will heal. And over time, all of a sudden, your shoulder is healed and you can do all of this, and there's no longer a foreign object in there obstructing the muscles, the ligaments, and doing any tissue damage. The reason that that analogy makes sense to you is because you recognize that it's a foreign object in the body that shouldn't be there, and once you remove it, the body can heal and all the pain goes away. It's harder for people to understand that when you say it's a bone chip, because it's a part of your body. But the truth is, at that point, it's broken off and it's become a foreign object. So it's no different than having a foreign object. And then the reason that there's a lot of inflammation associated with a foreign object is because the body realizes it's a foreign object. Inflammation rushes there and tries to push the foreign object out. Just like when you get a zit or you get a boil or something, you get a foreign object, the body encapsulates it and tries to force it out. The problem with bone chips is that they're deep enough under the fascial layer that the body cannot expel them, because there is a hard layer of fascia that the body cannot push it through to expel it. If the fascia wasn't there, the body would actually expel a bone chip, because it would create a big giant pus pocket and pop, and like a splinter, it would shoot out of there. The difference between a splinter and a bone chip is the bone chip is below the fascia, where a splinter would be on the outside of the fascia. So the body can expel something on this side of the fascia, but the fascia is hard enough that it can't be expelled through that layer. So I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm explaining these things in terms that you guys can understand, but I also hope that you're starting to grasp that these horses are still viable. Now, while they have catastrophic issues, these issues are rehabable and fixable. It's just like a human. Let's say that you broke your leg and nobody went in and operated and the bone was not met up. Your bone would never heal properly, and you would never be able to walk on that leg again, because it would heal wrong and it was no longer stable. But if you go in, you have surgery, they put rods in, you can go back to running marathons. There are people like me, I've broke my ankle, I have screws and plates, and I can run, jog, jump, do whatever. I have next to no issues with my ankles, knock on something wooden. So I hope that that makes sense. These horses just have a foreign object now in the body that the body keeps inflaming and trying to expel, but it's below the fascia, so the body can't expel it. But it is now floating in Giant Mesa's case, meaning it's not attached. Now, with that being said, Riker's chipped and then it reattached through calcium deposit. It calcified back down. So Riker's is not floating, Giant Mesa's is floating. Both chips probably should be removed. Riker could have a jumping career, a 3-day event career. He could have a long-term performance career without removal of the chip. But there is even a chance in the future that if he bumped it or got kicked and it broke loose, it could float and end his career. Giant Mesa was lucky. When his broke loose, it didn't float into the joint and obstruct the joint, meaning he still has a viable career in the future, because when it happened, they didn't continue to push him with medication beyond a reasonable amount of being exercised. So he's kept in a stall. We keep his legs wrapped, but the chip needs to be removed before it moves and obstructs the joint. So I hope that that explains both of those horses, why they have very similar, almost identical chips. One is healed back down and calcified, and one is floating. Why one is extremely detrimental, why one you could get by with not removing it, but why it still might be pertinent to remove both. Now let's move on to the dun horse. The dun horse has a calcification below the meniscus. That calcification can be broken down, and the inflammation in that stifle can be helped greatly. And the cartilage that doesn't have a lot of integrity left can be rejuvenated. Now, how you rejuvenate the cartilage is by doing restorative therapy such as Renovo. We will do cryo. We will do TheraPlate. We can do a lot of things that can help to increase the body's ability to heal that area. PEMF is a great thing for stifles because it's going to push that Gauss in. It's going to Gauss is what you call the pulsed electronic magnetic field that you push into the body. That breaks a lot of negative energy loose in the body and allows the body to restore itself and heal. I've seen a lot of tissue damage and a lot of very crazy things happen. I had a customer that had an eardrum that had been ruptured in her past, and she carried fluid behind it, and the doctors couldn't do anything, and then she had some hearing loss and chronic issues. She started using PEMF therapy around her head, and be damned if that eardrum did not actually start to repair. The inflammation got out of it enough that it drained one night, and now she can hear out of it again. She said it was the craziest thing in the entire world when she started getting all the inflammation out of that area, and the Gauss started pushing oxygen through the blood more, and all of that negative energy got removed from there. The body was able to actually restore itself. The body has a very uncanny ability to heal if we give it the proper things and the proper nutrition to heal. So there's lots of supplementation that can help with the post-surgery aspects of things, but right now what we need to focus on is knowing that every year I get horses in here who have the ability to go back to a performance career and add a lot of value to people, but they have to have restorative therapy that people were not willing to pay for. What I need are groups of women that step up and say, you know what, I don't own a horse, but I love horses, I love what you do, and I want to contribute towards the rehabilitation of these horses because they deserve it. I need people to help me. I need help for these horses. It's very pertinent. I would love to see the dun horse get rehabbed, and I would like to use these rehabilitation cases to educate the public. So in case you're battling this, in case you have a horse that you're considering selling because you have no idea, I think that we could change these horses' lives. I think we could change the lives of horses that we never see because their owner can learn from us and in turn be a better horseman in the long term and to be able to rehabilitate their horses. I think that's important. So I hope you guys will consider it. I hope that you will join the Wild Tribe After Hours. I would love for the Wild Tribe After Hours to have 1,000 members. If we could get, we're at 555. I think there's like 499 or something that are actually in the group. And there's like an additional 60 people that have joined, but they didn't want to have the, like the group notifications or whatever. Cryo and TheraPlate is excellent. Both are amazing. I have other things here. I have a shockwave, which is sound blast therapy. It puts sound waves in to break loose scar tissue. It is something we will do to that stifle. We will shockwave that stifle to start to break that calcification underneath the meniscus loose. But we need to do restorative therapy to the tissue and the cartilage and the joints that is in that stifle. There's not an actual joint. It's a stifle. I mean, there is a joint in the stifle on the inside, but it's more the joint spacing, We need to try to get that cartilage to rejuvenate. So we need to kind of throw everything in the kitchen sink. Like, that's what we need to do and really try to help these horses. And I think with each one, we will learn something. With each one, we will see what therapies definitely helped, what therapies didn't. But I can't do this alone. I can do some of it. I can afford the upkeep. Like, I can feed them. I can get Jacob to let me keep a couple of them without paying him. There's a lot that I can do because of the room that we have to play with the Wild Tribe After Hours. That group sends a lot of extra income here every month that allows me to be able to do things that I wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So I am asking, please join the Wild Tribe After Hours. Please join the Wild Tribe Daily. And then fast forward to those of you who can do those two things, which that's like $30 a month. So for those of you who can contribute that, please do. And for those of you who are like, you know what, I can do a little bit more than that. Okay. There are other ways that you can contribute on top of those things, which are cash apping money for vet bills, paying the vet directly. I know the vet has PayPal. He has Venmo. I do not. So if you need to pay through PayPal or Venmo, you can call them directly. If you want a cash app, You can Cash App it directly to me. Just put like vet bill fundraiser in the memos. If you want to just pay the vet directly towards the unsold horse vet bills, that helps, because the more of the unsold horse vet bills that are paid, the more I can take from the Wild Tribe After Hours and use it to restorative therapy. So it's a lot to think about. We currently have Giant Mesa and Riker already. Somebody's already willing to help them. But the Wild Tribe After Hours can be billed via credit card, PayPal. There's different options because it's Facebook. So you pay Facebook directly, and then Facebook pays me at the end of the month. So Successful Riker and Giant Mesa, Haley has volunteered to step up and help both of them. Riker is somebody we are going to fully try to rehabilitate and retrain, and then be able to offer him in the future to a really great home, hopefully a show home. I would love to see like a 3-day eventer or something get that horse. That would be amazing. Now, with that being said, I think that Giant Mesa and Riker are fantastic, but I think that Dunny deserves help too. I think he is not a surgery candidate, but he's almost just as expensive, maybe even a little more, because his restorative therapies are a different type of expense. But anyway, that's what we have going on. It's something that have really for a long time thought about, and I just really want to